The first gunshot cracked through the vineyard exactly 3 seconds before the bride reached the altar. Ava Collins heard it through her camera lens. At first, her mind refused to accept the sound. Weddings had sounds: champagne corks, nervous laughter, chairs scraping against stone patios, a violinist missing one trembling note as two families pretended to like each other under a golden Napa Valley sunset. Weddings did not have bullets tearing through white roses. Then the second shot shattered the glass arch behind the officiant. Screams erupted across the vineyard. The groom ran. Not stumbled, not ducked, not reached for his bride. Ran. Ava lowered her camera just in time to see Ethan Vale disappear behind the altar, with the clean, practiced speed of a man who had already planned his escape. The bride's veil whipped sideways in the sudden chaos. Guests dove under tables. Crystal glasses exploded. White petals scattered across the aisle like snow over blood. And in the center of it all, one man did not move. Damian Romano sat in the third row, dressed in a black suit that looked too still for panic, too expensive for innocence. Around him, billionaires crawled on their knees. Politicians screamed into phones. Security guards fumbled for weapons they were too frightened to use. Damian simply turned his head. His dark eyes found Ava. Not the bride. Not the gunman. Her. Ava's finger remained frozen over the shutter. Through the lens, she had captured everything. The masked men breaking through the vineyard gates, the groom vanishing, the bride being pulled behind a wall of bodyguards, and Damian Romano rising from his chair like the violence had been waiting for his permission. "Get down," he said. His voice was low, calm, and terrifying. Ava should have obeyed. Instead, she took one more photograph. That was the moment every crime family in Northern California decided she had to die. Damian moved before she understood why. His hand closed around her wrist, hard enough to drag her out of the open, but not hard enough to hurt her. A bullet struck the marble fountain behind her, spraying cold water over her hair and face. He pulled her against his chest, shielding her with his body as armed men in black surged from the vineyard shadows. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "I'm not one of your people," Ava snapped, breath shaking. His eyes dropped to her camera. "No," he said, "you're worse." Then the vineyard became a battlefield. Damian did not shout. He did not panic. He gave quiet orders, and men obeyed as if his voice was law. Black SUVs crashed through the side gates. Guests were pulled into wine cellars and armored cars. The violinist crawled beneath the stage. The officiant prayed with his face pressed to the ground. Ava tried to pull away, but Damian caught the strap of her camera and yanked her back into the shadow of a stone wall. "Let go of me. If I let go, you die. You don't know that." His gaze sharpened. "I know exactly who they came for." Another gunshot tore through the vines. Damian pushed her behind him, drew a pistol from beneath his jacket, and fired once. A masked man dropped beside the white aisle runner. Ava stopped breathing. Damian turned slightly, his expression unreadable. "Now you know too." By nightfall, the wedding had not ended. It had become a siege. The vineyard estate belonged to the Vale family, old money wrapped around political ambition. Senator Malcolm Vale had invited judges, donors, CEOs, and men whose wealth came from places no campaign record would ever show. Ava had been hired because she was discreet, talented, and invisible. Rich people loved photographers who knew how to disappear, but Ava had never truly disappeared. She noticed things: a bride gripping her bouquet too tightly, a groom checking the exits more than the woman he was supposed to marry, a senator smiling at guests while whispering threats behind clenched teeth. And Damian Romano. She had noticed him before the shooting. Everyone had. He arrived late, without an invitation visible, stepping out of a black SUV as if the vineyard gates existed only because he allowed them to. Conversations dimmed when he passed. Men who had spent their lives buying power looked down at their shoes. Women stared despite themselves. He was handsome in a way that felt dangerous rather than charming. Sharp jaw, dark hair, controlled stillness, eyes that made every secret feel temporary. Ava had photographed him once from across the aisle. He had looked directly into her lens. Not surprised. Expecting her. Now, hours later, Ava sat inside the underground wine cellar with 200 terrified guests while Damian's men secured the estate above. The air smelled of oak barrels, spilled champagne, and fear. Emergency lights painted the stone walls red. Her camera sat in her lap. Damian stood near the cellar entrance, speaking quietly to one of his men. His white shirt cuff was stained with blood, though Ava was not sure if it belonged to him. She looked around. The bride was gone. The groom was gone. The senator was gone. Only guests remained, whispering questions no one dared answer. Ava stood. Damien's head turned instantly. Sit down. I need to know where the bride is. No, you don't. I was hired to photograph her wedding. The wedding is over. Ava looked toward the cellar doors, then back at him. Then why won't you let anyone leave? A muscle flexed in his jaw. Because whoever attacked this vineyard is waiting outside to see who runs. And you? I don't run. There was no arrogance in it. Just fact. Ava lifted her camera. I have photos. The cellar seemed to go colder. Damien crossed the room slowly. Guests moved aside without being asked. He stopped close enough that Ava had to tilt her head back to hold his gaze. Show me. No. His eyes narrowed. Ava. Her stomach tightened at the sound of her name. I never told you my name. You're wearing a vendor badge. My badge says Collins Photography. I know who you are. That should have frightened her more than it did. Instead, anger rose fast and hot because fear had nowhere else to go. Then you know I don't hand over my work to armed strangers. His face remained calm. I'm not a stranger anymore. You killed a man in front of me. He aimed at you. He aimed at everyone. No, Damien said quietly. He aimed at your camera. Ava looked down. For the first time, she understood. Not her. The camera. The thing she had captured. The thing someone wanted erased. Damien held out his hand. Memory card. Ava stepped back. No. Several of his men shifted. Damien did not. If those images show what I think they show, every man who planned this will come for you. Then call the police. A bitter amusement touched his mouth without becoming a smile. The police are already here. Ava glanced toward the cellar doors. Damien leaned closer. They're outside wearing masks. Her pulse stumbled. He reached toward the camera, but Ava pulled it against her chest. Touch it, and I swear I'll smash it. For the first time, something like interest moved through his expression. You'd destroy evidence to spite me? I'd destroy it before I let you control me. Silence settled between them. Then Damien lowered his hand. You have no idea how rare that is. What? Someone saying no to me while shaking. Ava hated that he noticed. She hated even more that his voice softened by half a degree when he said it. I'm not shaking because of you. No, he said. But you should be. Before she could answer, the cellar lights went black. Screams rose in the darkness. Damien's hand found Ava's wrist with impossible precision. Behind me. Now. This time she obeyed. The emergency generator failed 30 minutes later. By midnight, the vineyard had disappeared into rain. Napa storms did not usually arrive like that, but this one rolled down over the hills with violent theatrical timing, turning the estate lights into blurred gold halos. Ava was moved from the cellar through an underground service tunnel beneath the winery. Damien walked ahead of her with 2 men in front and 3 behind, all armed, all silent. She still had the camera. He had stopped asking. That frightened her more. People like Damien Romano did not stop asking because they respected boundaries. They stopped because they had found another way. Where are you taking me? Ava asked. Somewhere alive. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters tonight. The tunnel opened into a private garage hidden beneath the vineyard's production house. Black SUVs waited in a line, engines running, headlights off. Rain hammered the concrete outside. Ava stopped when she saw the armed men. No. Damien turned. We don't have time. I am not getting into a car with you. You think staying here is safer? I think every person who has touched me tonight has lied. His expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Not every person. Ava laughed once, sharp and humorless. You expect me to believe you? No. Good. I expect you to survive long enough to hate me properly. The absurdity of it hit her at the wrong moment. She almost laughed again, but then someone shouted from above. Gunfire exploded across the garage entrance. Damien grabbed Ava and pulled her behind the SUV. A bullet tore through the side mirror. Glass sprayed across her cheek. She gasped as pain flashed hot under her eye. Damien saw the blood. Everything about him changed. The calm did not vanish. It darkened. He touched her cheek with 2 fingers, so lightly it confused her more than the violence. His gaze fixed on the tiny cut as if someone had carved into something sacred. Who fired? He asked. One of his men pointed toward the upper catwalk. Damien looked up. The man on the catwalk froze. Damien fired twice. The body fell hard onto the hood of a vintage Rolls-Royce parked near the wall. Ava stared, horrified. Damien opened the SUV door. Get in. This time, she did. The convoy tore out of the vineyard through a hidden road between drenched rows of vines. Ava sat in the back beside Damien, clutching her camera with both hands. Rain streamed over tinted windows. Behind them, the estate burned in patches of orange light. Her phone had no signal. Of course it didn't. Damien glanced at her cheek again. It needs cleaning. It's a scratch. It's blood. You say that like it's unusual for you. His eyes moved to hers. Yours is. She looked away first. That was the problem with dangerous men. They knew how to make control sound like concern. After 20 minutes of silence, Ava asked, "Where did the bride go?" Damien did not answer. "Where did Ethan go?" Still nothing. She turned toward him. "You know, don't you?" "I know many things." "Then start with why the groom ran like he knew the shooting was coming." Damien looked out the window. "Because he did." Ava's grip tightened on the camera. "And the bride? She was never the target." "Then who was?" Damien looked at her. "You were not supposed to be." The sentence landed like a trap door opening beneath her feet. "What does that mean?" Before he could answer, one of his men spoke from the front seat. "Boss, we have a tail." Damien's gaze shifted to the side mirror. 2 sets of headlights appeared behind them on the rain-slick road. Then 4. Then 6. Ava's breath caught. Damien reached across her. For one suspended second, his body was close enough that she felt the warmth through his jacket. He did not touch her except to fasten her seatbelt with a controlled click. "Hold on," he said. The SUV accelerated. The chase unfolded through dark Napa backroads, black vehicles sliding around curves between vineyards and cliffs. Gunfire sparked against metal. Ava ducked low, one hand over her head, the other protecting the camera. Damien remained upright beside her, speaking into his phone with lethal calm. "Block the bridge. Pause. No survivors on the second car." Ava stared at him. He ended the call. "You can't just say things like that." "I can. You're talking about killing people. I'm talking about people trying to kill you. You don't know me." His eyes stayed forward. "I know enough." The SUV swerved hard. Ava slammed into Damien's side. His arm caught her automatically, bracing her against him as bullets punched through the rear window. She should have pulled away immediately. She didn't. Neither did he. For one brief, impossible moment, she heard his heartbeat under her ear. Steady, controlled, human. Then the world exploded behind them. The bridge went up in a wall of fire. The chasing cars vanished into orange light and rain. Ava stared through the shattered back window. "What did you do?" Damien released her slowly. "I ended the conversation." They reached San Francisco before dawn. Not the bright postcard city Ava knew from client shoots and overpriced hotel weddings, but a darker version, fog crawling through empty streets, neon signs flickering over wet pavement, black cars moving like shadows beneath the Bay Bridge. Damien brought her to a penthouse above a private members-only hotel that did not appear on any booking site. The lobby was silent. No receptionist asked questions. No cameras were visible, which made Ava assume there were dozens. The penthouse doors opened into marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a view of the city washed silver by rain. Ava hated that it was beautiful. Damien's men swept the rooms. One placed a medical kit on the kitchen island. Another locked the elevator. Ava remained near the door. "I want a phone." "No. I want to call my assistant." "No. I want to call the police." Damien removed his jacket and rolled up one sleeve. "The police will trace the call. So will Caruso's people. So will the Vale family. So will anyone who wants what's in your camera. You keep saying that like I'm supposed to understand." "You will." He opened the medical kit. "Sit." "No. Ava, stop saying my name like you own it." His hand paused. The room went silent. One of his men looked away. Damien's gaze stayed on her, unreadable. Then he closed the medical kit with deliberate restraint. "Everyone out." His men obeyed instantly. When the door shut, Ava realized she was alone with him. The city glittered behind his shoulders. He looked less like a man and more like a verdict. "I don't own you," he said. "Good. But tonight, every person who wants you dead thinks I do." Her throat tightened. "Because you dragged me away. Because I saved you. You kidnapped me. I prevented your execution. Those can both be true." For the first time, he lay, almost tired. Then he nodded toward the sofa. "You're bleeding. Sit down and I'll explain one thing." "One thing?" "One truth." Ava hesitated. Then she sat. Damien approached slowly, giving her enough space to refuse. When he cleaned the cut on her cheek, his touch was controlled, almost clinical, but his jaw remained tight. Ava watched his face more than his hands. Why were you at the wedding? She asked. That's your one question? No, it's the first. A faint shadow crossed his mouth. I was there because Ethan Vale stole something from me. A bride? No. A business? No. What then? Damien placed a small bandage against her cheek. A child. Ava went still. Outside, thunder rolled over the bay. Damien stepped back before she could process the gentleness of his hands. My brother had a daughter, he said. After he died, she disappeared. For 6 years, I looked for her. 2 weeks ago, I learned Senator Vale had been hiding her through a private adoption network tied to Vincent Caruso. Ava swallowed. The bride? The bride was bait. The wedding was a cover. The handoff was supposed to happen before the ceremony. Ethan ran because he knew Caruso planned to turn the wedding into a massacre and blame me. And my photos? Damien looked at the camera. You photographed the men who took my niece. The word niece cracked something in the room. Not softness. Not exactly. A wound. Ava thought of the way he had stared at her blood. The way he had ordered guests into safety before firing back. The way he had not asked about power or money first. You're trying to find a little girl, she said. His eyes hardened. I'm going to. And if I give you the photos, you become less useful to them. Less useful doesn't mean safe. No, at least you're honest. Only when lying wastes time. Ava almost smiled, then hated herself for it. She removed the memory card from her camera and closed her fist around it. Damien watched but did not reach for it. Make me a copy, she said. His eyes narrowed. What? I'll let you see the photos, but I keep the originals. That is not how this works. It is if you want my help. You're negotiating with me? I'm a wedding photographer. I negotiate with mothers, in law for a living. You don't scare me as much as you think. He stared at her for a long moment. Then quietly, that is becoming a problem. By morning, Ava had seen the face of the man who would haunt the rest of her life. The photo was blurry at first glance, a masked gunman near the vineyard's east gate, half turned beneath a burst of shattered glass. Damien's tech specialist enlarged the image on a secure screen, while Ava stood nearby in borrowed clothes, arms folded tightly over her chest. The man's mask had slipped just enough. Damien's expression did not change, but the room did. His men went still. Ava noticed. Who is he? Damien said nothing. The specialist swallowed. Boss. Say it, Damien ordered. Matteo Romano. Ava looked at Damien. Romano. His name. Damien's brother was dead. That was what he had said. But the man in the photograph was very much alive. Damien stared at the screen with the controlled emptiness of someone refusing to bleed in public. Ava understood then that this was not simply a mafia attack. It was betrayal. Personal. Ancien. The kind that did not end with arrests. It ended with graves. Your brother? Ava asked softly. My brother died 6 years ago. The specialist avoided his eyes. Maybe he didn't. Damien turned away from the screen. No explosion, no grief, no visible heartbreak. Just silence so cold it made every man in the room afraid. Ava followed him into the hallway before she could stop herself. Damien. He stopped but did not face her. You don't have to explain. I know. I didn't mean, you photographed a ghost, he said. His voice was calm, but something underneath it had fractured. Ava stood behind him, close enough to see his hand flex once at his side. For a strange second, she wanted to touch him. She didn't. He would not have accepted comfort. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Instead, she said, then ghosts can be exposed. He turned slowly. The look he gave her was different now. Not suspicion, not command. Fascination. As if she had stepped across some invisible line by not being afraid of his pain. You should be asking me to let you go, he said. I'm going to ask. But not yet? Not until I know what I helped capture. His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth, then returned to her eyes with ruthless control. You don't know what curiosity costs in my world. I know what silence costs in mine. That was the first time Damien almost touched her without needing to. His hand lifted slightly, as if drawn by instinct toward her cheek, toward the small bandage he had placed there. He stopped before contact. His fingers curled into a fist. Ava saw the restraint. Felt it. The space between them became more dangerous than the men hunting her. Then his phone rang. Whatever had been forming between them vanished. Damien answered, listened, and his face turned lethal. They found her apartment. Ava's stomach dropped. My apartment? He looked at her. It's gone. Rain fell over San Francisco like the city was trying to wash away evidence. By the time Damien's convoy reached Ava's apartment building, firefighters had already blocked the street. Smoke poured from the third floor. Neighbors stood under umbrellas in pajamas in shock. Ava tried to get out of the SUV before it stopped. Damien caught her waist and pulled her back. "Wait. My home is burning, and whoever did it may still be watching. I don't care." "I do." The words hit harder than they should have. She turned on him. "You don't get to care after one night." His eyes held hers. "I don't need permission." Ava froze. Outside, her life collapsed in smoke and flashing red lights. Inside the SUV, Damien Romano looked at her like something in him had already chosen violence on her behalf. She hated him for it. She wanted to believe him for it. Both feelings scared her. He stepped out first, coat darkening in the rain, and opened her door himself. His men surrounded them instantly. Neighbors stared. Phones lifted. Ava heard someone whisper Damien's name like a curse. She walked toward the building, but a firefighter stopped her. "You can't go in. My files, my equipment." "Ma'am, the fire started in your unit." Ava went cold. Damien asked, "Cause?" The firefighter hesitated, then glanced at him and answered, "Accelerant." Ava closed her eyes. "Not an accident. A message." Her assistant, Molly, stood across the street crying beneath a blanket. Ava rushed to her, but Molly recoiled when she saw Damien behind her. "Ava, what is happening?" "The police came looking for you. Then 2 men came asking about your camera. I didn't tell them anything, I swear." Ava hugged her. Damien watched the street. Molly whispered, "Why are you with him?" Ava had no answer. Then her phone, dead since the vineyard, suddenly buzzed in Damien's hand. She stared. "You had my phone?" "Yes. You said it wasn't safe." "It wasn't. And now?" "Now they want you to answer." The screen displayed an unknown number. Damien handed it to her, but kept his hand near hers. "Put it on speaker." Ava answered. For 2 seconds, only static. Then a man's voice said, "Miss Collins, you took something that belongs to us." Ava looked at Damien. His expression had emptied. The voice continued, "Give us the memory card, and perhaps we will not send your assistant back to you in pieces." Molly sobbed. Ava's blood turned ice cold. Damien took the phone. "Vincent." The line went silent. Then the voice smiled. "Damien Romano, still collecting broken women to replace the family you couldn't save?" Every man around Damien stiffened. Ava felt the insult land, though Damien's face did not change. "Touch anyone near her," Damien said, "and I'll bury your entire bloodline before sunrise." Vincent laughed softly. "You always were sentimental. That's why Matteo betrayed you." Damien's hand tightened around the phone. Ava saw it then. The first crack in his control. Vincent continued. "The photographer has until midnight. Bring the card to St. Helena Chapel. Come alone, or the little girl dies too." The call ended. Ava whispered, "Little girl?" Damien did not answer, but his silence did. His niece was alive, and Vincent Caruso had her. St. Helena Chapel had been abandoned for 30 years. It sat on a hill above the vineyards, surrounded by cypress trees and fog, its stained glass windows broken, its bell tower blackened by an old fire. Ava saw it first through the rain-blurred windshield as Damien's convoy approached the hidden safe house below the ridge. Not the chapel itself. A replica. Photographs, blueprints, surveillance feeds, guard rotations. Damien had been studying it for weeks. Ava stood in the safe house basement, wrapped in a dark sweater, watching his men prepare weapons across a long table. The room smelled of coffee, gun oil, and wet leather. "You were always going there tonight," she said. Damien glanced at her. "Yes." "Even before they asked for the memory card?" "Yes." "Because of the child?" "Yes." Ava stepped closer. "And because of your brother?" At that, he went still. The men nearby pretended not to hear. Damien dismissed them with one look. When they were alone, he turned toward her. "Matteo was my younger brother. Brilliant, reckless, too convinced love could make monsters human." Ava listened carefully. "He fell in love with a woman from Caruso's family. I told him it would get him killed. He called me cold. I called him foolish." Damien's voice remained even, but his eyes were elsewhere. "Then his car exploded with his wife inside. We found enough of him to bury. But he survived, apparently, and took his own daughter." "No." Damien's jaw tightened. "He helped hide her from me." "Why?" "That is what I intend to ask before I kill him." Ava should have recoiled. Instead, she heard the pain beneath the threat. "You loved him." Damien looked at her sharply. "What?" "You talk about him like hatred is easier." His face hardened. You understand very little about men like me. I understand grief. Something flickered in his eyes. Ava looked away first. My parents died when I was 19, she said. Car accident. I photographed weddings because I liked believing families could still begin without ending in disaster. Damien said nothing. I know what it feels like to build a life around not needing anyone. The silence changed. Not softer. Closer. Damien took one step toward her. You should not tell me things that make you matter more. Her breath caught. Do I? His gaze held hers with unbearable restraint. You mattered the moment they aimed at you. That's not an answer. It's the safest one I have. For a second, neither moved. The safe house lights flickered as thunder rolled above them. Damien lifted his hand slowly, stopping inches from her face. Ava could have stepped back. She didn't. His fingers brushed the edge of her bandage with almost unbearable care. You should be afraid of me, he said. I am. Not enough. I'm afraid because I don't know which version of you is real. His thumb hovered near her cheek. The man who kills without blinking, she whispered, or the man who looks at my blood like it hurt him. His expression changed. There it was. The near confession. The dangerous edge. Then a door opened upstairs. Damien stepped back instantly. Ava felt the loss of his warmth like cold air. One of his men called down, Boss, we found the bride. The bride's name was Celeste Arden. She was not missing. She was hiding. Damien's men found her at a private clinic outside Sacramento under a false name, guarded by 2 off-duty federal agents and 1 Caruso soldier, pretending to be hospital security. By the time Ava and Damien arrived, the clinic was under lockdown. Ava should not have been there. Damien had told her that 6 times. She came anyway because Celeste had been in her photographs, and because something about the bride's terrified eyes before the shooting would not leave her alone. The clinic hallway smelled of antiseptic and rain-soaked coats. Red emergency lights flashed over polished floors. Damien moved through the building like a man every locked door recognized. Celeste sat in a private room, still wearing part of her wedding makeup, mascara streaked beneath hollow eyes. When Damien entered, she flinched. Please, Celeste whispered. I didn't know they would shoot. Ava stood near the doorway. Damien's voice was quiet. Where is the child? Celeste began crying. I tried to stop it. Where? Ethan took her before the ceremony. He said if I didn't walk down the aisle, my father would disappear me too. Damien leaned closer. Ava sous Celeste tremble. Then Celeste looked at Ava. You photographed him, didn't you? Ava touched the camera strap across her body. Celeste laughed weakly through tears. That's why they're scared. Who is the little girl? Ava asked. Celeste's mouth quivered. Her name is Lily. Damien's face changed so subtly most people would have missed it. Ava didn't. Lily. A real name. A child no longer hidden behind crime and strategy. Celeste continued. She's 6. She thinks Ethan is her uncle. She doesn't know any of this. Damien turned away, one hand braced against the wall. For the first time since Ava met him, he looked like the room had no air. Ava understood. His niece had been stolen as a baby, raised by enemies, used as leverage. And now the man who feared nothing was terrified of being too late. Celeste wiped her face. Vincent doesn't want the memory card. Not really. He wants Ava. Damien looked back. Was pulskipt. Why? Damien asked. Celeste stared at Ava with pity. Because her father wasn't killed in a car accident. The hallway outside seemed to vanish. Ava heard her own voice from far away. What did you say? Celeste whispered. Your father was an accountant for the Romano family. Ava took one step back. Damien turned toward her. Ava. No. He disappeared after finding proof that Senator Vale and Vincent Caruso were laundering money through family courts and adoption agencies, Celeste said. The accident was staged. Ava shook her head. No. Your mother died because she was in the car with him. You survived because you weren't. Damien's face had gone dangerously still. You knew? Ava asked him. No. But the answer came too fast. Ava saw it. The hesitation beneath the certainty. You knew something. Damien said nothing, and that silence broke more than a lie. Ava backed away from him. You knew my name before the wedding. Yes. You knew who I was. I knew your father had worked for my family. And you didn't tell me? I didn't know if it mattered. My parents are dead. His voice lowered. I know. Do not say that like it belongs to you. Pain flashed across his face, brief and buried. Ava ripped the memory card from her camera and threw it at his chest. There. Take it. That's what you wanted. Damien caught it but did not look down. Ava. Don't. She turned and walked out of the room. This time, when Damien followed, she ran. Ava made it to the clinic stairwell before the first alarm sounded. Not from Damien. From outside. The clinic windows exploded inward. Armed men dropped through the smoke. For one horrifying second, Ava thought Damien's enemies had found them because of her. Then she saw Ethan Vale stepping through the shattered lobby doors in a rain-dark tuxedo, holding a pistol and smiling like the groom who had run away had finally remembered his role. "Where is she?" Ethan shouted. Ava hid behind the stairwell wall. Damien appeared at the end of the hallway. Alone, unarmed in appearance, though Ava knew better now. Ethan's smile widened. "Romano, you always did arrive wherever the girl was." Damien's voice was ice. "Which girl?" Ethan laughed. "That's the tragedy, isn't it? You have too many weaknesses now." Ava's chest tightened. Ethan raised his gun toward the hallway behind Damien toward Celeste's room. Damien moved. The fight was brutal and fast. No dramatic speeches. No wasted motion. Damien disarmed the first man, broke the second against a wall, and fired with controlled precision as his own men flooded the clinic from the rear entrance. Ava ran back toward Celeste's room because fear for herself had been eclipsed by fear for the child who might be next. Celeste was gone. The window was open. Ava looked down and saw a black van pulling away from the clinic. Inside it, a little girl's hand pressed against the glass. Lily. Ava didn't think. She lifted her camera and shot frame after frame through rain and smoke as the van disappeared into the night. Then Ethan grabbed her from behind. His arm locked around her throat. The barrel of his gun pressed beneath her jaw. Damien turned at the sound. Everything stopped. Ethan dragged Ava into the hallway, using her body as a shield. "Give me the card," Ethan said. Damien's face was unreadable, but his eyes were fixed on the gun touching Ava's skin. "You won't leave this building alive," he said. "Maybe not, but she'll leave first." Ava could barely breathe. Damien looked at her. Not Ethan. Her. "Close your eyes," he said. Ethan laughed. "What?" Damien's voice stayed calm. "Ava, close your eyes." She did. The gunshot was deafening. Ethan's grip vanished. Ava collapsed forward, and Damien caught her before she hit the floor. His arms closed around her with a force that felt less like control and more like fear finally breaking through bone. For one heartbeat, he held her too tightly. Then he loosened his grip as if remembering she could break. Ava opened her eyes. Ethan lay on the floor behind her, alive but bleeding from the shoulder, Damien's bullet placed with surgical cruelty. Damien looked down at him. "Where is Lily?" Ethan smiled through blood. "Ask your brother." Damien's control snapped. He grabbed Ethan by the collar and slammed him against the wall so hard the glass behind them cracked. Ava touched Damien's arm. "Stop." He froze. Not because of the police. Not because of his men. Because of her hand. His breathing was slow and dangerous. Ava felt the violence vibrating under his skin, begging to be released. "Don't become him," she whispered. Damien did not look at Ethan. He looked at her. And somehow that was worse. Because she saw the truth before he said it. He was already becoming something else. Because of her. They left the clinic before federal agents arrived. This time, Ava did not sit beside Damien in the SUV. She sat across from him. The distance felt deliberate, cruel, necessary. Her cheek bandage had come loose. There was blood on her sweater, not all of it hers. Her camera rested between them like a third person in the car. Damien watched the city pass outside. Ava watched him. "You investigated my father," she said. "Yes." "When?" 3 years ago. That hurt more than she expected. "Why?" "Because your father's files disappeared the same week my niece did. And you never thought to tell me? You were not involved. My family was destroyed." His gaze returned to her. "I thought I was protecting you from a world you had escaped." Ava laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "No. You were deciding what I deserved to know." His silence confirmed it. "Did you come to the wedding for Lily?" she asked. "Or for me?" Damien's jaw tightened. "Both." The word changed the air. Ava looked away. "That's not romantic." "I didn't say it was." "It's terrifying." "Yes." "Were you watching me before the wedding?" His answer came after a pause. "Yes." Ava's stomach twisted. "How long?" "Long enough to know you work too late, forget to eat during editing weeks, and keep a baseball bat behind your bedroom door that you hold incorrectly." She stared at him. "That is not protection. That is surveillance." "Yes. At least pretend to be ashamed." "I'm not ashamed of keeping you alive. You don't get to make my life a prison and call it safety." "No," he said. "I don't." The admission disarmed her more than denial would have. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, hands clasped. I have spent most of my life believing love is the most efficient way to destroy a man. My brother proved it. My father proved it. Every enemy I have ever killed proved it. His voice lowered. Then you stood in a wine cellar, shaking, and told me no. You looked at my world and refused to disappear inside it. That should have made you inconvenient. And instead? His eyes lifted to hers. Instead, I started calculating how many cities I would burn if someone took you from me. Ava stopped breathing. There it was. Not softness. Obsession. Beautiful and horrifying. She whispered, "That's not love." No. The answer hurt. Then he added, "Not yet." The SUV entered a private underground garage beneath a luxury hotel on the Embarcadero. Before Ava could respond, Damien stepped out. She remained inside. He opened her door. She looked up at him. "I don't forgive you. I know. I don't trust you. You shouldn't. Then why are you still standing there like you expect me to take your hand?" His gaze dropped to his outstretched palm, as if he had not realized he had offered it. For the first time, Damien Romano looked uncertain. Not weak. Never weak. But human enough to bleed through the cracks. Ava placed her hand in his, just long enough to step out. Then she let go. By dawn, Ava's photographs had revealed more than faces. They revealed choreography. Every gunman at the vineyard had moved according to a pattern. Every exit Ethan used had been cleared seconds before he reached it. Every security guard who failed to react had stood down before the first shot. The wedding was not attacked. It was staged. Ava sat in Damien's penthouse, surrounded by printed photographs, taped across glass walls, red circles, black arrows, faces, timelines. Her work had become a war map. Damien stood behind her, close but not touching. "You see something," he said. Ava nodded slowly. The bride wasn't being protected. She moved one photograph beside another. She was being delivered. Damien's eyes sharpened. To whom? Ava pointed to the background of one image. A child's pink ribbon, almost invisible beneath a table near the service entrance. Lily was at the wedding. The room went silent. Damien moved so quickly Ava barely saw him cross the room. He lifted the photo, stared at the tiny ribbon, and for one terrible second the most feared man in California looked like he might break. "She was there," Ava said softly. "Before the shooting." His voice was almost inaudible. "And I missed her." "No, they hid her in plain sight." His fingers tightened around the photograph. Ava stood beside him. "Damien." He didn't answer. "This isn't your fault." His laugh was low and empty. "Everything in my world is my fault." "That's arrogant." His eyes cut to hers. She held his stare. "You don't get to claim every tragedy just because you're powerful enough to punish someone for it." For a moment he looked furious. Then something in him gave way. Not visibly, not dramatically, but Ava felt it. He looked back at the photo. "My brother used to say I confused control with protection. Maybe he was right. Maybe that's why he took her from me. Maybe he was wrong about you too." Damien turned toward her. Rain streaked the windows behind him. The city was waking beneath a gray sky, unaware of the war forming above it. His gaze dropped to her hand. He did not reach. Ava did. She touched his wrist. Just 2 fingers. Barely anything. Damien closed his eyes for half a second. The sight pierced her more deeply than any confession could have. Then his phone rang. His face hardened as he answered. A distorted voice came through the speaker. "Bring Ava Collins to the old chapel tonight. No guns, no men, no tricks." A little girl cried in the background. Damien went still. The voice continued. "Uncle Damien?" The child's voice was small, shaking. Ava's throat closed. Damien gripped the phone so tightly the casing cracked. "I'm coming," he said. The line went dead. Ava knew before he turned around. "You're not bringing me." "No. She asked for you. And they asked for you. Because they know you won't risk me." His eyes burned cold. "They're right." Ava stepped closer. "Then you lose Lily." "No. You can't save everyone by locking them away." His face tightened. "I can save you. Maybe I don't want to be saved at the cost of a child." "That is not your decision." Ava's anger flared. "It is when I'm the bait." Damien's voice dropped. "You are not bait. Then what am I?" The question hung between them. His answer came slowly. "My weakness." Ava's breath caught. He looked almost angry at himself for saying it. "My enemies spent years trying to find one. Money failed. Territory failed. Blood failed. His eyes held hers. Then you took one photograph, and suddenly every man who hates me knows exactly where to aim. Ava whispered, "That's why you're scared." Damien did not deny it. For the first time, the feared man did not hide behind threat or command. Yes. The word was quiet, devastating. Then he walked away before she could touch him again. At sunset, Ava escaped the penthouse. Not easily, not foolishly. She used what she knew best: observation. Every wedding had patterns. Every room had blind spots. Every security system had human habits. One guard checked his phone every 7 minutes. Another looked toward the elevator when the kitchen door opened. The service hallway camera lagged by 3 seconds. Ava left through the laundry chute with her camera bag strapped to her chest and Damien's world burning behind her in silent alarms. She reached the street in a hotel uniform, hair tucked under a cap, heart pounding so hard she thought strangers would hear it. A black town car pulled up before she could decide where to run. The window lowered. Celeste Arden sat inside. Her face was pale. "You want Lily?" Celeste asked. "Get in." Ava should have run. Instead, she opened the door. Celeste drove them south through fog and dusk, away from San Francisco, toward the old wine country roads where the chapel waited. "Why help me?" Ava asked. Celeste's hands tightened on the wheel. "Because I was supposed to marry Ethan and pretend not to know there was a child hidden in the flower room. Because I let my father sell me into a family that trades children like assets. Because if I don't do one decent thing tonight, I'll never sleep again." Ava studied her. "Is this a trap?" Celeste laughed softly. "Yes." Ava's stomach dropped. Celeste looked at her with tears in her eyes. "But not mine." Headlights appeared behind them. Too close. Then beside them. Ava turned. Black SUVs surrounded the car. Not Damien's. Caruso's. Celeste whispered, "I'm sorry." The car was forced off the road. Men dragged Ava into the rain before she could reach her camera. Someone struck Celeste. Ava screamed, fought, kicked, clawed, and bit until a man twisted her arm behind her back. Then a familiar voice said, "Enough." Matteo Romano stepped from the shadows. Damien's dead brother. He looked like Damien in fragments, the same dark eyes, same bone structure, same stillness, but where Damien felt carved from control, Matteo felt hollowed by regret. Ava stared at him. "You're alive." He smiled sadly. "Not in any way that matters." "Where is Lily?" His expression changed. "Safe for now." "From Damien?" "From everyone." Ava shook her head. "You helped them take her." "I helped hide her." "By working with Caruso?" Pain crossed his face. "I made choices I can't defend." "Then don't." A black hood was pulled over Ava's head. The last thing she saw before darkness was the old chapel bell tower rising through fog like a grave marker. Damien arrived alone. At least that was what Vincent Caruso believed. The abandoned chapel stood under a storm-black sky, its broken stained glass glowing faintly from candlelight inside. Rain slid down Damien's face as he walked up the stone steps without a weapon visible, without armor, without his men. Inside, Ava knelt near the altar with her hands tied. Lily sat beside her, wrapped in a white cardigan too thin for the cold. Ava had managed to move close enough that the child leaned against her side, trembling. When Damien saw them, the room changed. Ava had seen him angry. She had seen him lethal. She had never seen him afraid like this. His eyes moved from Lily to Ava and back again, and the mask he wore for the world almost failed. "Uncle Damien?" Lily whispered. Damien stopped breathing. Vincent Caruso emerged from behind the altar, smiling. "Beautiful, isn't it?" The feared Damien Romano brought to his knees by a photographer and a little girl who doesn't even know him. Damien looked at Lily. "I knew your father," he said softly. Lily's eyes widened. "My dad is dead." Matteo stepped from the shadows. "No, sweetheart." Lily turned. "Papa?" Damien's face went utterly still. Ava closed her eyes. The twist landed like a blade. Lily knew Matteo. Loved him. Trusted him. Damien's brother was not simply alive. He had raised the child Damien spent years trying to find. Vincent clapped slowly. "Family reunions always make me sentimental." Damien's gaze shifted to Matteo. "Why?" Matteo's eyes filled with guilt. "Because you would have raised her inside war. I would have protected her. You would have made her a Romano weapon before she learned to write her name." Damien said nothing. Matteo's voice broke. "I saw what our father made us. I couldn't let that happen to her." "So, you gave her to Caruso?" "No. I ran from him too. But Vincent found us." "Vincent Sahil." And now everyone is exactly where I need them. Ava pulled against the rope around her wrists. What do you want? Vincent smiled at her. Your camera gave me a problem, but you also gave me an opportunity. Damien Romano has never loved anything publicly. Tonight, he will. Damien's eyes darkened. Vincent lifted a gun and pointed it at Ava. Choose. The child or the woman. Lily began crying. Ava's heart slammed against her ribs. Damien did not move. Vincent laughed. There it is, the impossible choice. Damien looked at Ava. For one breath, the chapel disappeared. No Caruso. No guns. No rain. Just his eyes on hers, full of all the things he had refused to say. Ava understood before anyone else did. He was not choosing. He was calculating. She gave the smallest nod. Damien moved. The chapel exploded into violence. The stained glass windows shattered inward as Damien's men descended from the bell tower and side passages. Ava threw herself over Lily as bullets tore through candlelight. Mateo tackled Vincent. Damien crossed the room through gunfire like death had given him permission. A bullet struck him in the side. He did not stop. Another grazed his shoulder. He did not stop. He reached Ava and cut her ropes with a blade hidden in his sleeve. Take Lily, he ordered. You're bleeding. Take her. Ava grabbed Lily and pulled her toward the side door. Mateo fought Vincent near the altar. Damien turned back to cover them, firing at shadows moving through smoke. Then Vincent broke free and aimed at Ava's back. Mateo saw it first. He stepped into the bullet. The shot hit him in the chest. Damien's roar filled the chapel. Not anger. Grief. Ava froze at the sound. It was raw enough to tear the night open. Damien caught Mateo as he fell. For the first time, the Mafia boss who never bowed dropped to his knees in blood and broken glass. Mateo gripped his brother's shirt. Don't make her afraid of your love, he whispered. Damien's face twisted. Stay with me. Mateo looked toward Lily. Let her choose who she becomes. Then his hand fell. Damien bowed his head. The entire chapel seemed to hold its breath. Vincent tried to crawl away. Damien rose. Ava pulled Lily against her chest, shielding the child's eyes. Damien walked toward Vincent, with blood running down his side, his face empty in the way storms are empty before they destroy towns. Vincent raised one shaking hand. Damien. No. The gunshot echoed once. Then silence. The chapel burned before sunrise. Not by accident. Damien ordered it himself. Every hidden document, every Caruso ledger, every surveillance file, every blackmail record stored beneath the altar went up in flames. Years of leverage, millions in secrets. Enough power to reshape Northern California. Gone. Ava stood in the rain outside, holding Lily's hand, watching orange fire consume the building. Damien emerged last, blood soaking his shirt, carrying Mateo's body. No one spoke. No one dared. When he passed Ava, he did not look at her. Maybe because if he did, the grief would become real. Maybe because Mateo's final words had reached the part of him he kept buried. The next week became a blur of safe houses, federal negotiations, funerals without names, and headlines that could not decide whether Damien Romano was a criminal mastermind, a vigilante king, or the man who had prevented a political massacre. Senator Vale resigned. Ethan Vale vanished from custody and was found 2 days later tied to the gates of the FBI field office with documents pinned to his chest. Celeste entered witness protection. Lily was placed temporarily with a vetted guardian under Ava's supervision until the courts could untangle 6 years of forged identities and criminal adoptions. Damien disappeared. Not from the city. From Ava. No calls. No message. No black SUVs idling outside her temporary apartment. No shadows across the street. No men pretending not to guard her. For the first time since the wedding, Ava was free. And she hated how empty freedom felt when it came with silence. 3 weeks after the chapel burned, Ava returned to photography. Not weddings. Not yet. She accepted a small portrait session at a children's shelter funded anonymously after the scandal. Lily was there, sitting beneath a window with a sketchbook in her lap. Ava knelt beside her. What are you drawing? Lily showed her a picture of a chapel, a black car, and a man standing in the rain. Is that Damien? Ava asked. Lily nodded. He looks sad. He is. Do you think he'll come back? Ava looked out the window. I don't know. Lily tilted her head. Do you want him to? Ava could have lied. Instead, she said, yes. That night, Ava found him outside her apartment. Not inside. Not watching from a camera. Not surrounded by men. Just Damian Romano standing alone beneath the rain, one hand pressed against his healing side, his black coat soaked through. Ava stopped under the awning. "You look terrible." His mouth almost moved. "You changed the lock. You noticed?" "I notice everything about you." Her heart tightened. "That used to scare me. And now? It still does." He nodded as if he deserved that. "I came to say goodbye." Ava's chest went cold. "Why?" "Because Mateo was right." She swallowed. "About what?" Damian stepped closer, stopping before he entered her space. "I don't know how to love without turning it into possession." Ava said nothing. "I know how to protect, control, destroy, hunt, punish. I know how to make the world afraid to touch what matters to me." His voice lowered. "But you are not territory, Ava. You are not evidence. You are not a weakness to hide behind armored glass." Rain slid down his face like grief. "You deserve the truth, choice, space. I gave you fear and called it safety." Ava's throat ached. "And now you're giving me goodbye and calling it noble." His eyes lifted. She stepped into the rain. "You still don't understand choice, Damian." "I'm trying." "No, you're still deciding for me, just in the opposite direction." Something fragile moved across his face. Ava stood close enough to see the exhaustion beneath his control. "You hurt me," she said. "I know. You scared me. I know. You also saved me." His jaw tightened. "That doesn't erase the rest." "No," she whispered. "It makes it complicated." For a long moment, only rain spoke between them. Then Damian reached into his coat and removed a small envelope. Ava took it. Inside was a photograph. The first image she had taken of him at the wedding. Damian in the third row, looking directly into her lens before the world broke open. On the back, written in precise black ink, were 5 words. "You saw me before I fell." Ava looked up. Damian's voice was rougher now. "I spent my life making sure no one saw enough of me to matter. And then? Then you did." The confession was quiet. No grand speech. No demand. No possession. Just a feared man standing in the rain, offering the only truth he had left. Ava stepped closer. His body went still. She lifted her hand to his cheek, and this time he did not stop her. His eyes closed at the contact like it cost him everything not to break. "I can't be owned," she whispered. "I know. I can't live in a cave. I know. I won't be loved like a hostage." His eyes opened. "Then teach me how to love you like a free woman." The words settled between them, dangerous and tender. Ava should have walked away. Maybe another version of her would have. But this version had stood in gunfire, uncovered the truth about her parents, held a stolen child through a burning chapel, and seen the most feared man in California kneel over his brother's body with grief in his hands. She knew the darkness in him. She also knew the restraint. The difference mattered. Ava leaned in slowly, giving him time to retreat. He didn't. Their first kiss happened in the rain outside her apartment, without music, without witnesses, without anything soft enough to make it simple. Damian kissed her like a man afraid of wanting too much, holding himself back with visible effort. Ava felt the restraint in his hands, hovering before settling lightly at her waist. Not claiming, asking. That was why she stayed. Months later, the vineyard reopened. Not for the Vale family. Not for politics. For Lily. The estate had been seized, sold, and quietly purchased by a foundation in her name. The old wedding aisle was gone. The white roses had been replanted. The fountain still bore one bullet scar no one had repaired. Ava stood beneath the golden Napa sunset with her camera in hand. This time, she was not photographing a wedding. She was photographing Lily's 7th birthday. Children ran through the grass. Celeste stood near the garden under federal protection, smiling for the first time Ava had ever seen. Molly cried over every cupcake. Security remained discreet, but present along the vineyard perimeter. And Damian stood alone near the aisle where the first gunshot had changed everything. Ava lowered her camera and walked to him. "You're hiding again." "I'm observing." "That's what dangerous men call hiding." He looked down at her. The scar near his shoulder was hidden beneath his suit. The grief was not. It lived quieter now, but Ava knew it would never fully leave him. "Lily looks happy," he said. "She is." She asked if I would dance with her. "And?" "I told her I don't dance." Ava raised an eyebrow. "Coward." His eyes narrowed faintly. "Careful." Or what? For once, the silence between them was not filled with fear. It was filled with memory. Heat. Choice. Damian looked toward the party, then back at her. I have something for you. If it's a surveillance system, I'm throwing it into the fountain. It's not. He handed her a velvet box. Ava's heart stopped. Damian, open it before you decide to hate it. Inside was not a ring. It was a key. Ava frowned. To what? The Vineyard Studio. She stared at him. I don't understand. You said you weren't ready to photograph weddings again, so I had the old carriage house converted into a photography studio. Not for brides. Not unless you choose that. For portraits, exhibits, whatever you want. Ava looked toward the renovated stone building at the edge of the property, glowing warmly beneath string lights. Her throat tightened. You bought me a studio? No. She looked back. I bought the land under it and transferred the studio to your name. The foundation owns the rest. You own that. That distinction is very mafia of you. I'm improving slowly. She laughed softly, then grew quiet. You didn't ask. His face changed. There it was fear, immediate and controlled. I can undo it. Ava studied him. Then she closed the box. No. No? No, don't undo it. Her voice softened. Just ask next time. He exhaled slowly. I will. Lily ran toward them in a white dress with grass stains on the hem. Uncle Damien. Damien turned just in time for her to collide with him. He stiffened for half a second, then carefully rested one hand on her back. Ava watched his face. The cold man the world feared looked down at the child his enemies had used against him, and something in him softened without becoming weak. Will you dance now? Lily demanded. Damien looked at Ava. Ava lifted her camera. I think you should. I told you I don't dance. Lily grabbed his hand. You do now. And somehow, the most feared mafia boss in California let a 7-year-old girl drag him into the middle of a vineyard birthday party. Ava photographed it. Not because it was perfect, because it was proof. Proof that endings could be rebuilt on the exact ground where everything once burned. Proof that powerful men could learn tenderness without losing strength. Proof that love did not have to be a cage, or a weapon, or a debt paid in blood. Sometimes, love was a man standing in the ruins of his own control, choosing to become safer for the woman who had seen him clearly and stayed only when she was free to leave. Later, as the sun disappeared behind the vineyard hills, Damien found Ava near the fountain. Music drifted through the warm evening air. He stood beside her, shoulder almost touching hers. I never let the wedding end, he said quietly. Ava glanced at him. No, you really didn't. His eyes moved over the vineyard, the place of violence, betrayal, grief, and impossible beginnings. Maybe I was waiting for a better ending. Ava looked through her camera at Lily laughing beneath the lights, at the repaired aisle, at the man beside her who had once mistaken possession for love and was now learning devotion one restrained touch at a time. Then she lowered the camera and took his hand. Damien looked down at their joined fingers as if it was still the most dangerous thing he had ever held. Ava smiled. Then don't ruin this one. His thumb brushed gently over her knuckles. I won't. Above them, the first stars appeared over Napa Valley. Behind them, the old fountain whispered over its bullet scar. And for the first time in his life, Damien Romano stayed at the end of a celebration not because he was guarding an exit, hunting an enemy, or waiting for blood. He stayed because Ava Collins chose to stand beside him. And this time, no one ran.